Good evening, everyone. This is Jennifer Cardillo. I'm the head of the Warwick Special Education Advisory Committee, and we are going to kick off our meeting for Wednesday, March 27th. Our meeting will be from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. I'm going to go over some group norms in a few minutes, but I just wanted to let you know right off the bat, we are going to probably have quite a bit of public comment during today's meeting because of the subject material, and quite frankly, we're welcoming it. If we do have Caitlin Regan, who's going to be here monitoring chat to make sure that all of your questions are answered. There is a raise your hand feature within the meeting that you can use if you have a question. Basically, we're probably, I assume for most of the presentations, we're going to present first and then have questions right after that. So don't worry, we will get to you. We'll see how this goes, but we do normally make sure that we end on time, which has been appreciated. So just be fair warning. You might hear a little warning from me if we have like 15 minutes left or something like that. Okay. Just for further introduction for me, I have a student, Daphne, who is at 17 years old, and she is over at Tollgate High School. I've been involved with the Special Education Advisory Committee since she was quite little. I want to say she was probably in 3rd grade when I started coming to our meetings. And there's quite a few folks also who have done the same thing. They've dropped into meetings from time to time, or they've come in when there's a meeting like this where there's going to be a lot of information shared. So all of you are welcome. Warwick teachers, all parents, we're so glad you're here tonight, and we hope that you learn a lot by attending this call. So I'm not going to do our normal round of introductions for everyone, but I did want to have a couple of the team members from the Warwick schools who are in this room introduce themselves, and I'd like to start with Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Regan. I'm a special educator at Warwick Elementary School, and I'm the secretary.
Okay. David?
Good evening. I'm Dave Allenbach. I'm one of the co-directors for Special Services.
Hi, I'm Jen Arbor, the director for Special Services.
Okay, absolutely. So we're going to switch over to group norms. For those of you who have never attended any of our calls, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of those, but Caitlin's right because she's pausing on the meeting agenda, so I should probably go over that first. So after group norms, we are going to do a brief acceptance of last meeting's minutes. For old business, we're just going to touch quickly on membership and leadership, and also if we have any recognition of Warwick's team members, update on our presentation from last month, and also a quick shout out for the library sensory play program. If one of our members of the school committee is able to stop in, then we will receive a report from the school committee. But the majority of tonight's meeting will be taken up by a director of special services update. David and Jen are here to provide that update and just introduce themselves. So, just to talk about our norms for these type of meetings, we absolutely love to have participation. So, but you know, all of us need to be respectful too at the same time. So just make sure your cell phone's off and try not to talk over each other as best as you possibly can. That's for everybody in the room as well as everyone who's on the phone. We do accept, like I said, public comment from in the room and on the phone. So we're going to be balancing that throughout tonight's presentation. All of us are coming from a very unique place with our students that are in special services. All of us have had different experiences. We've gone to different schools with our kids. We've had different relationships with the teachers who have been supporting them, as well as the special services team members. So as you hear everyone's perspective as they're asking questions tonight, just keep that in mind. Listen for understanding, be patient with everyone's perspective, and and at the same time, be genuine, and we're looking forward to hearing what you say. The only other piece that I would mention too is we generally are very careful about sharing information about our actual kids. There's a lot of medical information that probably all of us are relatively familiar with for our families in this room. There are things that are covered on your IEPs that are confidential, and we ask that those do not be raised during this call. If you ever have any concerns related to your IEP, I would recommend that you either speak with us privately, go to your team members at the school, which is probably much better, or if you're still having issues, speak with someone in special services. With that said, I'd like to go over to the meeting minutes.
I'm going to pull up the January meeting minutes on the screen. And for those of you who are in the room, you can take a look at what was discussed at our last meeting in January. And if you have any questions or corrections, we can get those now.
And do we have the link in chat too?
And I'm going to put a link.
Okay. For those of you on the phone, we're putting a link in chat to those meeting minutes. Those are publicly accessible, so you should be able to pull that up on your screen. For everyone in the room, they are attached to your meeting agenda that you can take a look at the previous meeting minutes. So we'll give everyone 1 to 2 minutes to go through those. The meeting minutes are going to scroll on the screen. And once everyone's gone through that, if there's any questions, then please feel free to ask them. For anyone who just joined the call or came into the room, we're just going over the meeting minutes that are either on the screen or in the back of the agenda that's on the table. You're welcome. And you can sit wherever you want when you're ready.
Last thing you guys said home says
Oh, so no worries at all. We're normally at the library. Okay. Does anyone have any questions or corrections for the meeting minutes from January? All in favor of accepting the meeting minutes? Aye. Excellent. And the meeting minutes have been accepted. Okay. For old business, I just wanted everyone, because we have a lot of new people on the phone as well as in the room, I just wanted to chat about what normally is comprised of the members of the Warwick Special Education Advisory Committee, just so you have a little bit of an idea of who's all in the room. So the primary business of the Special Education Advisory Committee is to provide feedback and advice and counsel and work closely with our special services team members on anything and everything related to special services education in the Warwick School District. For the committee itself, we usually have no more than 21 individuals who are involved with the education of students. At least 50% of the Special Education Advisory Committee should be parents that have students receiving special education services. And normally, from our general rule of thumb that's in our bylaws, is that you have to attend at least 2 meetings in order to be considered for membership. And if you decide that that's something you'd like to do, either you've attended some of our events recently, or you have a really good outcome from this meeting and would like to learn more, then we'd love to have you, and we can have you nominated through our school committee, and your name will be read out at the school committee meeting that you're volunteering and you're participating, which is nice recognition. Membership can be renewed, it can be terminated. We're, really love to have as many people involved as possible. And if you have any questions, you can just reach out directly to me. For leadership, I am currently heading the Special Education Advisory Committee. We are always looking for more leaders. I'm sure Caitlin and I would be absolutely delighted to have a few other members who would be willing to step up to the plate, whether you'd like to help out with an event or plan a meeting like we're having tonight. We'd love to have you here. So again, if that's ever of interest, you can reach out to either Caitlin or me.
We want to, since we have such a great turnout tonight, do some nominations for leadership positions, so we can, because we can't do that at any meeting unless we have a high volume of parents participating.
That is a good point.
Let's do that
This is a
today.
very unusual situation. So how many parents do we have in the room? Oh, wow. Okay. How many parents do we have online? Can you raise your hand? We need to check and make sure we're at least at 50% if we're going to have any nominations or anyone who's volunteering to help out. Okay, we're good.
Eyeball, it seems like.
All right.
I would like to nominate Jennifer Cardillo for chair.
I would love to accept that nomination for chair. Caitlin, I would like to nominate you for secretary. And Caitlin and I would be delighted if anyone else would be to nominate themselves for any of the other positions that we have open. We have a vice chair position open. Obviously, the chair position is open until someone elects me. We have treasurers and all sorts of other stuff. We actually do have a budget, a very tiny one, but we have one. It's extraordinarily tiny. So, any other nominations in the room? Anyone else interested? Right. I guess show of hands online and in the room for at least the two positions that we have someone, and then you never know, you may receive a phone call from me and go, can you please help? So, all in favor of the two nominations that have been put forth for Caitlin as secretary and me as the head of the Special Education Advisory Committee? All in favor? This is the best day ever. Yay. Two positions down. All right, for new business, this is actually one of my favorite parts of the meeting. All of us are working closely with our teams throughout the district on our child's IEP, on what they're learning, things along those lines. This is your time to recognize them. This recognition is read into the minutes. There are staff members from all over the district, including a lot of times in the director's office, who do listen to this meeting. So if you do have someone you've been working closely with and you'd like to recognize them tonight, either anyone online, please raise your hand. We really would love to hear from you, or also within the room. And we do have someone who's raised their hand online. Abigail? Hi, Abigail. Are you able to come off mute?
Well, I did receive a nomination from a parent, Mary Kate Lyman. She sent in a nomination for a special ed teacher, Chris Mosh. She said, Mr. Chris is an amazing teacher. He's changed my family's life with his incredible ability to teach children, help them grow, and make a difference. So, Chris Mosh.
Congratulations to Chris. Is there anyone else, either online or within the room, who would like to recognize someone in the back? Just speak up a little bit so they can hear you online too.
I would like to thank Ms. Kina and Ms. Regan at Norwood for all the work that they do first graders. They're the teachers there, and they're just absolutely fantastic, and they're supportive of the parents and family as union as well. And I don't think that my child would be doing anywhere near as well.
Thank you. That is absolutely wonderful to hear. Well, we have two more in the room. We're still checking online for anybody who's raised their hand. So we'll start with you.
We'd also like to recognize the same teachers, Ms. Regan, Ms. Kina. Our daughter has done tremendously better since last year with working with them. They're so patient, very communicative, and really put a lot of effort in areas that are targeted for her. So we appreciate that, and they deserve all the recognition.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad you're having a great experience. You want to have one too?
Yeah, I'd like to recognize Molly Batista at Lowe. and the speech therapist, Amy. I pronounce last name, Jean
Antonio.
Yeah. That's what I did do amazing work. So I was there. He's been thriving.
Yes.
Stacy Benefit at Hot Seat, teacher at second grade, along with all of them with special education. Mrs. Place, Miss Lido, get to deal with all of them, which is an incredible school. Incredible team. Miss Benefit, classroom teacher is incredible.
Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. Did anyone raise their hand online? No? Okay. We'll take like one or two more. I do have one also. This one is for the Tollgate High School Drama Club, who recently had their production of The Wizard of Oz, and they did have participation from students in the special services community. It was a lot of fun. There was, singing, clapping, and Robot Toto, and all sorts of fun stuff. So I'm glad that they were able to find a way for everyone to participate in the production.
This might be corny, but it is my sister. She's a special educator at Oakland Beach, and she just started unified cheerleading at Pilgrim High School. She's a cheerleading coach at Pilgrim.
Oh, that's
And then
wonderful.
one state. So.
Woohoo, that's wonderful. Congrats. Sean.
I'll just recognize the Hoxie and Park Elementary School unified teams. They made
That's
it
right.
last Thursday with the first elementary unified basketball game. It was incredible to watch. The kids out there had a blast. So to anyone involved putting that together, it was just fantastic.
Absolutely. No. And the other recognition that I have is for the team at Welk. They obviously had an incredibly difficult week last week and will continue to do so. I think the community has done a tremendous job with pulling together to help them and to support them. And for everyone in here who helped with that to make them feel warm and as best as they possibly could, I really appreciate that. I know there were several in this room who bent over backwards to make sure that happened, including Sean and the team here. I just cannot even thank you enough. My daughter went through Welk. That was where she started. And so Welk's always been near and dear to my heart because that was how she started her really good education here in Warwick. So, thank you all. Anyone else who hasn't been heard or wants to raise their hand online? Anything? Okay. Right. If you forgot and you wanted to, if you're online and wanted to share a story, please, we can take it during public comment too. We always love recognition. So, okay. For our community presentation update, I was wondering, I unfortunately was traveling on business during our last community event, which is probably the first one that I've missed in years, and I was the one I was probably really looking forward to. So I was wondering if David and Caitlin, you could share a little bit about how things went.
Sure. So we did a presentation that included representatives from ORS, Rehab Services, and then we had a representative from Buda, and our transition coordinator from the state was also gave a presentation. And we looked at the process for students that are exiting high school and what steps come next and what kind of services would be available and how to acquire them. It was well received. The presentation was great. It was a great night.
Yeah.
There were a lot of great resources that all the presenters shared, and there were about, I would say probably 30 to 40 people that came. And the feedback was good, so it's good.
Yeah, we had really tremendous support from the community for that event and also from our school committee, who was tireless with making sure that the event was publicized, and we're hoping that we can continue to support events like that for everyone in the community.
And those resources, if I'm not mistaken, are on the WSEAC website, right?
They should be, yeah.
Okay, great. The last piece of new business is a little bit on the library sensory play program. And so Caitlin, I didn't know if you wanted to cover that piece.
Sure. So since we usually hold our meetings at the library, a worker from the library had reached out and wanted to actually come to tonight's meeting, but obviously she wasn't able to since we had to move. But she is starting a sensory play group that is held at the library every month. They're just starting out. The first one is actually this Saturday from 10 to 11:30, but they have dates in April and May, and if it's positive, they're going to continue it throughout the summer. And moving forward, there is a flyer up the front, if you didn't get one already, but I'll share it out when I send out this recording as well.
Perfect. It sounds like a wonderful program.
Yeah.
Sean Galligan from the school committee has joined us, and we were wondering if you, before our main presentation, if you might introduce yourself and also give a few words about what's going on with the school committee.
So first and foremost, apologies for missing your big event in February. I heard it was a great success. The Gallagher family finally took a vacation to recharge, and so we were away that week, but I heard it was great, and the recap that we received from Ms. Cardillo during the school committee meeting on March the 12th was very great to hear about how the event went down. Secondly, I typically don't like to speak for my colleagues on the school committee, but tonight I feel I need to. There's someone that's a big advocate within this the city and the school district for special education, and that's Ms. Hazelwood. She would be here if she could. Unfortunately, she had a passing in her family, and so she wasn't able to join us tonight. As far as special education goes tonight, our co-directors, Ms. Barber and Mr. Ollenbach, we're going to be speaking to some changes with respect to special education. Those changes within the teachers union contract, we supported unanimously as a school committee. And we feel that in speaking with them and members of their team, that it will help provide really good services across the district. I can say to you this, as a father with 2 children with IEPs that require special services, I would not have voted in support of that contract if I did not feel that my children would receive the services they require. But I also want you to know that I know several other people within the community that their children require special services. And I recognize that their children also require the same level of attention as mine. And so I took them all into account as well. So Dave and Jen will tell you, I probably sent over a list of 48 questions. 48 questions. They gave me the contract, and I sent over a list of 48 questions. I said, I want these answered before I vote in support of this, or we're going to table this contract. And that's they answered them all. I felt very confident with the responses. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. They know that. They know that with me now after 15 months, that's the type of guy I am. And so we'll have that presentation tonight. And we, again, just supported another, in the last meeting, hiring of another one-to-one TA, I believe for Norwood Elementary School. So now that makes, in the last 6 months, 24 unbudgeted positions to support people that require special services from this school committee. So that shows our continued support to special services, our most vulnerable student population. The last thing I'll add is that I've been fighting with our state legislator the changes in the funding formula with the governor's budget. If any of you can please help me out. 3 components of the funding formula. 2 of them are multi-language learners and special education. We have a booming population of students requiring special education here in the city of Warwick. The funding formula changes equate to $1.3 million in lost state appropriations for the city of Warwick. So I put forward before my colleagues on the school committee a resolution to go to our state legislator at the General Assembly. And I just emailed that off about an hour or 2 ago. We supported it unanimously. That was a 5-0 vote as well. We're asking them to reconsider the governor's vote, or the governor's funding formula for education this year. If they recognize that, and I've also spoken with several other chairs of other school committees. They're joining on board as well. There's roughly about a dozen of us at this time that have put forward resolutions to the General Assembly asking them to change the funding formula. So we're hoping that that happens, because that would mean $1.3 million more for Warwick. And what does that mean? $1.3 million more that we can apply to special services. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Is there anything that parents can do to help that situation?
Email your state representative and your state senator. So in your area there, it would be Matthew LaMountain, and you could also reach out to Joe McNamara, yeah, those would be your two folks over in that area.
And if you think those letters don't mean something to their state legislatures, you are very sadly mistaken. I have had to do that a number of times. I've had to go up to the state legislature for another organization that I'm part of to speak with them. They do listen to you. You are heard. And the louder we are, the more likely that they'll consider some of the concerns that are coming out of our community. So please don't be afraid to do that. Sean, I assume that everyone in this room, as well as on the phone, can reach out to you if they have any
Absolutely.
questions about this issue. This was also covered in our meeting minutes from January, which is up on our site. So if you have any questions between that, Sean can answer the questions, go to our meeting minutes, and we'll be happy to get the information you need to write. It only takes a few minutes to send an email.
Absolutely, and I could share on my campaign Facebook page the resolution that's been sent out. If you want to save it, rotate it, copy it in your email, and ask them that they give due consideration to the resolution that we passed. There are three components of the changes to funding formula. Two of them involved multi-language learners and children requiring special services. That impacts our school district significantly because the volume of students now requiring special services. So now it means that we've got to invest more with other dollars and we're going to pull away from other programs. So we obviously don't want to do that. So if we can get that $1.3 million, that'd be huge. So please join me in emailing your state rep and senator. We're very fortunate that the Speaker of the House comes right from over in this area here, Speaker Shikarchi. That carries weight. I don't have to be coy about it in saying that. And then we have some very influential representatives and senators up at the State House. So I'm doing everything I can. My colleagues supported the resolution, so please join us. Thank you.
Are there any questions from Sean, either online or within the room? You can raise your hand if you are online and you would like to ask a question. Like I said, we're going to have someone, Caitlin's going to be monitoring all night long. For anyone who's raised their hand or has a question, it's put in chat. And for anyone in the room, just raise your hand.
Have the budget hearing dates for school committee in that?
Yes, April 23rd and April 30th, budget hearing 1 and budget hearing 2. I'm working with our attorney now to figure out how we can bring back public comment in both of those hearings. So if there's something of concern to you with regards to the budget, you can come and you won't be asking us directly. You will be asking the directors of those functional areas those questions. So if you have questions regarding funding for special education, you'll be turning it over to them. But what we're trying to figure out is we're governed by certain rules and policies. And so I'm trying to figure out how we can change those in the 11th hour here. So that way we can afford people those opportunities. But yes, April 23rd and April 30th, we'll pass the budget on the 30th. And then it goes before the city council. Council President McAllister has told us, excuse me, I don't have the date, but I can send it to Jennifer and she can include it within the minutes. We're going, I believe it's May 22nd. We're going before the city council, at which time they'll hear the school department's budget. And then if they cut our funds by any means, we'll certainly have to revisit our budget during the school committee meeting on the second Tuesday of June. So fingers crossed, there's no cuts.
I'm just going to suggest too that maybe in the meeting minutes, we also include the links to the state legislature site, because I know that's normally where I go if I need somebody's email. So that might be helpful for everyone here. Okay. Thank you, Sean. Sean's and with one of the school committee members, always make sure that they have a liaison that comes to this committee. They speak every single month about issues that are important to Warwick and the special education community. I appreciate your ongoing support, and I'm glad that you've always had someone here to answer our questions.
No problem.
With that said, we are devoting the last pretty much hour of our meeting to our directors of special services, who are going to present the changes to the elementary programming. What we're going to do, like I said at the beginning of the meeting, is give them a chance to present. If you have questions as they're going through the presentation, make sure you either jot them down if you're in the room, or if you are online, use the chat feature and we will be monitoring that throughout the presentation. Once the presentation has ended, we are going to be taking public comment. If we have a lot of public comment, we are going to have to limit to about 2 to 3 minutes at most, but we want to make sure that all of you are heard and get your questions answered. Okay. With that said, turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for letting us have this parent forum.
Let me check and make sure they can
Yes.
hear you. Can everyone hear Jen online? If one person come off mute to confirm that you can hear online?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
All
Thank
right.
you.
I have no problem being louder. Thank you very much for coming out. This is one of many forums that we'd like to hold to start having conversations about changes that will be coming next fall. But before we start, there are a lot of parents that I have not met before, so I thought we would do some introductions and just tell a little bit about our background.
So I'll start. I'm Dave Allenbach again. Prior to coming to Warwick, I was in Cranston. I was a special educator in Cranston for 3 years. I taught resource, co-taught, small group intensive, and then I became a special education administrator. I was special ed administrator in Cranston for 12 years. Father of 2, I have 2 girls at home who keep me pretty busy, and actually have a sibling who has special needs as well.
I'm Jen Barber. I spent almost 2 decades in Central Falls teaching elementary and secondary special education. I just had my 2-year anniversary in Warwick. March 22nd was my 2nd year here. And I've also been a co-director for the last 15 months here. And I don't know if you want to switch a couple of the, do you want me to do that? I'm very good at this.
I don't know, sure. if you want.
Yeah. Is that?
I should just be able to click that.
That thing over there? All right,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Or, I mean, I can do it if you want.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, I got it.
On top of my, being in this field, I'm also the parent of 4 children, a parent of 5, but 4 of them had IEPs. They would cringe if they knew that picture was up, but they are all adults. My oldest stepson, Liam, graduated from UMass Dartmouth, and he works on a naval base in Newport right now. On the spectrum, got kicked out of every preschool you could imagine, went to an out-of-district placement, like an unbelievable success story, but it's because he had parents, my husband and his mom and myself, always being there to advocate. So I understand my son, Jack, he is at UMass Lowell going for computer science in college. He is, I think, 9 credits from graduating, also on the spectrum, struggled in school, success story. And my youngest stepson, Nolan, he is at, oh my God, I'm going to forget the name of it's a community college. I'm blanking out right now. He just started, he's 18, so they're all adults now. And my oldest daughter, I don't know, for people who have been to other presentations, she's at Bridgewater State right now. So we never thought that we would be here. It was a battle. We fought for a lot. It felt like fighting. And so when I took this job, I don't want people to feel like you have to fight. Like it's just, we have the law. We have the law that protects kids. The fighting part, I hope that really goes away in Warwick because I had to do a lot of it. And it's no fun. It's an emotional roller coaster to begin with. So to have to climb walls that are unnecessary, we hope to make that go away. Okay. So Warwick Public Schools is embarking on a multi-year endeavor to ensure that every Warwick Public School elementary school is inclusive. So our objectives, and I'll go into detail. I'll go into detail what we want. But Warwick Public Schools, we're looking to increase least restrictive environment for kids. Right now, we have all of our students who require services in a co-taught classroom, in a gen ed classroom, from the 13 schools, all have to go to 5. We're bringing them to a service instead of providing a service to them where they are. So we're looking to increase least restrictive environment. Again, we want to bring those services to students. And over the course of the next 5 years, we would like to eventually have students just be able to stay in their home school. We're not looking to move anyone right now. We're not looking to shift anyone. You have developed a relationship and a community in your school. That's not what we're looking to do. We're looking to, within 5 years, eventually be able to have our students start kindergarten in their home school and then be able to stay there. So, and to be able to do that, we have to create flexible systems and restructure the support systems that we have in place right now. And that flexibility will help us really address increased needs of our students. We have a lot of so how will we transition to all-inclusive elementary schools?
Hi, can everyone online just make sure that you're on mute if possible? I think someone probably accidentally clicked a key.
Probably.
So no, I do it all the time. I also double mute myself, so you know. Go ahead.
So our first is to increase access to grade level learning. Second is to ensure that inclusive delivery of interventions and supports and services are in place. The next is to engage in team-based planning and collaboration. And the fourth is to reset district infrastructure. So I just want to go over a little bit with increasing our inclusive delivery of interventions. Never mind, I'm going to go back to that. I realized I did a slide. Go ahead. Sorry. All right, so this is our current model. So right now of the 13 schools, those 5 in pink have resource and co-taught. So anyone in those 13 schools, if you have a preschooler at Welk, if they require co-taught, they cannot go to their home school. They get bused to these 5 schools. Okay, so anyone who's requiring general ed setting for their special ed services, they have to go to these 5 schools. So no matter where you live, and due to some constraints that we had with the contract and class size, if we wanted to send that student to that school and they were full, we have to bus them sometimes across the city, which is really hard for families. So the schools that are exclusively resource pullout, which are the green, teachers do it from a place of love, and but they're trying so hard to avoid the hardship with families of having kids in multiple schools, because it's hard for a single mom, to go and pick up her child at one school because he just needs 15 more minutes of service than he would if he were in resource. And so they just try and service them in the resource schools. So it's really hard. And then their caseloads are really overwhelmed and they can't get to all of the kids that they need to get to. So they're doing it out of love. They want to be able to keep the students in their home schools, but then that takes them away from their core instruction because they're pulled out. It's not a push-in model. So the teacher would go and pick up the student and pull them out. So they're missing sometimes time during reading or math, or, sometimes their favorite stuff might be science, but that's when they're pulled because they need those services. So we have a lot of students right now. We're being bused across the city just to receive an education in a gen ed setting. I don't know if you want to do
Yeah,
this.
sure. So this is an example of the current service delivery model. So as Jen said, so the 5 schools that have that co-taught, that have that gen ed setting: Cedar Hill, Lippett, Norwood, Oakland Beach, and Park. So if the team determines that the services should be in a gen ed setting, your student would have to go to one of those 5 schools. And at those schools, you have one co-taught class for every grade level, K through 5, that consists of one gen ed teacher and one special educator that are in the same room throughout the whole day. In K, there's a teaching assistant that's assigned to the classroom. And then in those buildings, there's 1 or 2 resource teachers, depending on the caseload. The resource teacher does the pull-out model. So those kids are completely separate. So if a student has the gen ed setting, there's 2 sections of say grade 5. One section would have all the students that are in the co-taught setting, and then all the rest of the students would be in the other setting.
So challenges, I did mention some of them with this current model. We just want to show you, transporting the students is difficult. Sometimes parents have to get their one child on a bus early at the same time as their other children have to be, at school. So it's been a really hardship to have students in multiple schools. But just to look at this table here. So of these 5 schools, the total students in co-taught, 18 of them are not in their home schools. There's 33 at Norwood, 19 are not in their home schools. So we're busing all of those kids. We're sending them, taking them away from their neighborhood friends and doing that. Park, there are only 11, but Lippet, 23. More than half. Cedar Hill, 21. So
there's almost 100 families that their students are not going to their home school since they have services in their Gen S center. So another challenge to the current model, not to bore you with details, but the current teacher contract, there was not know the nuances of all the history, but there was a difficulty with the union and administration agreeing to the last teacher contract. I went to arbitration. So an arbitrator wrote the contract, and so the language says that no more than 30% of a co-taught classroom can be students with IDPs. So when you talk about the total number of kids in the classroom at 30%, with a full class of 26, it's like 7 kids. So in the way administration's hands are kind of tied with that, if the class, if you move in and your student is in that grade level and they require that service, and your student number 8, we can't send that student to their home school. We have to bus them to a different school. So it really does kind of limit the ability to teach kids where they are and in the classes that they belong in with their home schools. Another challenge was that there's teachers that are assigned to a grade level co-taught classroom or a grade level, and if this year there's only 2 students that have co-taught IEPs in that classroom, then they have 2 students that they're servicing for the entire year. Whereas you would have a resource teacher in that class that might have 20 students that they're servicing. So those students aren't getting, the students that have 20 aren't getting, enough services or the appropriate services if that teacher's spread too thin. And then you have a teacher that's only servicing 2 kids. So it was created the inequitable caseloads for that.
yes.
I would just add that when Jen and Dave presented this to us, I put my parent hat on as an individual who has children with requiring special services. And what I was gathering while I was interpreting what they were saying was that our special educators, the people district-wide, were spread too thin. So our children were actually losing out on the services that they were, should deserve because the teachers were overloaded. So with the new model that they were presenting, it presented our children better opportunities. So.
Yeah, and so if you so just in one building, there was a co-taught with 2 students, and then another grade level, there was a co-taught with 9 students. And so the person with 9, could be first graders. That's a lot of work, with 9 first graders, trying to get them all done. And then there's someone with 2, but we weren't allowed to utilize the resources from within the building, so that our students were losing out. So it really tied our hands and boxed us into what we're able to do for students. And having the co-taught resource, instead of it just being special education services, really puts our kids in boxes, and we're kind of labeling them, and it limits what we can provide them. There's so many times at meetings that someone would say, it's too bad we couldn't do this. And we will now. If your student needs to have someone push in for most of their instruction, but math is a struggle and they really need to be able to be pulled out and have that, small group outside of the classroom, that's an option. There's nothing tying our hands now with that.
Yeah, now they can have the best of both worlds.
Right. So we can create whatever situation we need to within that building. So I think it just helps to distribute the weight. I think the more people we have involved, it takes a village. I don't know any of us who can do just raising children. It takes a village. And so when it's all on one person, it really can hinder what we're able to do. And so I think us being able to distribute students equitably, which we'll get to, will really help to alleviate and get to our kids and provide them with what they need. So we want to progressively increase their access to grade level learning. So like I said, at all of these changes, there's no one that we're saying anyone has to move right now. If your child is where they, where you would like for them to finish until they get to middle school, we're totally fine with that. We just, within a 5-year time span, we would like to be able to have people educated in their home schools. So structuring schools for flexibility. Those 5 current co-taught schools will now be inclusive schools. This means students with IEPs will be equitably divided amongst regular education classrooms. So right now, if you have a grade 2, 3 sections of grade 2, only 1 can be co-taught. So 1 would be co-taught. That's what we had before. Now we'll be able to put, if we have 8 kids, you can put 3, and 2. You can just distribute them equitably so that there aren't classrooms that are really heavy on IEP students. And we'll be bringing the services to them, opposed to what we've been doing, which is bring them to a service, because I think we've kind of lost our way. Special ed is a service, it's not a place. So I think we've kind of lost our way and taken that literally. So we want to get back to that. If you want to do this.
Sure. I think another portion of this plan that's going to allow elementary schools to work on is the intervention supports, the MTSS multi-tiered system of supports. Right now, because all those students are lumped into one section, there really isn't a lot of opportunity for the interventions and for the tier 1 and tier 2 interventions to take place. When students are struggling, automatically teams go to refer them to special education. So this will allow buildings to utilize the resources within the building, because everybody's not going to be spread too thin.
Another thing that we are really working on is engaging in team-based planning. Like I said, it takes a village. We can't do it alone. So we really want to adopt the universal team-based approach and really working on collaboration at the building level, at the district level. We have commitment from the district to implement MTSS with fidelity across the district, which will help us to decrease the amount of premature referrals to special ed. So we need to do our due diligence and make sure that we've tried what we can before we go down that path. So just moving from that fixed individual classroom-based model to more of a flexible, agile team and support. And then working with service providers. Not everything has to come from the special ed teacher. We have so many layers of support built into the school that we just need to work as a team. Does that check-in, check-out have to be from that special educator? Is there someone who they have a connection with that might be able to do that? Sometimes things really aren't a good fit. Sometimes, I'm sure you've had teachers, maybe you haven't, but sometimes it's just not a good personality fit, or they're just not meshing well. This will give us the flexibility to be able to match kids up with teacher skill sets. And just really working together as a team to understand every student's needs. Right now, if you're a co-taught second grade teacher and you're really struggling you've got a class and you're really struggling to kind of hone in on what's going on with this kid, we'll have the flexibility now where our special educators will be building-based teams where we can come together and kind of, oh, you know what, I had him in first grade, what really worked? He loves, blah, blah, blah. So just being able to do that, because right now we're kind of living in silos. So just that team-based approach, we're looking to have that. Go ahead.
So one of the things we recognize, change is difficult. And with those 5 schools, we're implementing an LEA. So there's going to be a teacher leader that's not going to have a caseload. There's going to be a special educator that's in the building that's going to be a resource for that special education team that's in the building. What that's going to allow teams to do is the building principal currently acts as the LEA. A lot of the building principals, if they're a special education heavy school, if there's a lot of IEPs in the school, they spend a lot of time at evaluation team meetings, at IEP team meetings, because they have to be there as the LA for all those meetings. So it does kind of take away from their ability to be an instructional leader in that school and to head up those MTSS teams, which is their primary role, is to work on those things. Another thing that the LE position will provide, currently we have school psychologists that act as the initial case manager for referrals, which takes away from their ability to provide that social emotional support to students. So that will free them up to strictly work on the clinical aspect of their job.
And we felt like it was important to have someone that was from within take on the LEA positions, just because change is hard. And we didn't want it to be anyone who was like evaluative or that people would be reluctant to go to. So this is, a leadership role that within the school with people that the teachers are familiar with.
So the timeline. So as Jen said, we're starting with those 5 schools. I want to make clear that we're not changing anybody's placement. We're not moving kids back around the district. We're not changing any students' IEPs. We're not reducing services to anybody's IEP. And this is going to be a gradual shift. And it's going to be a process that we take as a district in changing that mindset of how we're delivering services to kids. And we're going to meet kids where they are. So teams are going to work together, like Jen said, at the school-based level to work towards what's best for kids and find out what services make the most sense for kids.
We also want to make sure those 5 schools, we need to get everyone on the same page. We want there to be a uniform process. We want everything to be functioning, in a uniform way so that we can eventually spread out and provide those supports to those other schools. So resetting our district systems and support, I think just being able to work with the union, again, not to bring up contract language, but it was really important. We really worked hard together to make sure that the language in the contract opened up as many doors as possible for our students, so it didn't limit us from what we need to provide them with. These operational changes will definitely help to put layers of support in place before special education. So right now, it's limited. So if a child needs support, a lot of times people will go right to special ed. We want to make sure that those layers of support are in there so that we're taking care of that. So.
Yeah, so just to kind of recap, so the positive impact that this is going to have on those schools and on the district is we're going to be able to equitably distribute those caseloads so that we can have our services to our students be equitable and make sure that special educators aren't spread too thin. Distributing the resource and co-start students among each section so that you're not going to have one class that's going to be majority of the kids have IEPs and another section that has no IEPs. And then it'll allow the special educators to meet the students where they are. And again, like I said, as far as that LEA position and what that will change, the principals no longer serve as the LEA. The psychologists will no longer be required to act as case managers. principals could then utilize their time to focus on the MTSS. This will increase the percentage of students educated in an inclusive environment at their home schools, and increase the level of sports for those tier 1 through tier 3 interventions.
I'm not going to read this word for word because the words are too small. But we will share this out. We could just go to the next one. So at the end of 5 years, we hope to have all 13 elementary schools to offer general education services, special education services within a gen ed setting, except for those cases where there are self-contained programs. So it's impossible to have some of our specialized programs at every school, but we do try and keep a good balance on both sides of the city so that they follow their peers up to their high schools. But to have students at Oakland Beach and for COTOT, and then it's middle school, and now they have to go to Windman and then Tollgate, they didn't develop relationships with anyone from those schools. So we're really hoping that getting students back to their home schools will definitely help them.
So just as kind of a recap, so the existing service model, we have 5 of the 13 elementary schools cater to the students in special education through co-taught classrooms. So if it's in the gen ed setting, they're at one of those 5 schools. Each of those co-taught schools have 1 co-taught classroom per grade level. In a scenario where there's multiple 5th grade classes, the students with IEPs are grouped into just the 1 classroom. And then again, we're taking students and we're transporting students to services instead of providing services to the students. With the new delivery model and inclusive schools, so the special education services are evenly distributed across grade level sections. There's a fair allocation that ensures all students receive assistance within their grades. Teachers provide services directly in classrooms and eliminating the need for students to attend specialized programs. And an increased number of students receive education in regular classrooms with appropriate support.
So we will try and answer as many questions as possible. To be transparent, there are some things that are still up in the air. We're just starting to work on staffing, and so allocating our staff and seeing what we would like to do for kindergarten. I'll be transparent. Kindergarten is something that I really feel like we need to work with our K teachers, our co-taught K teachers. So we are coming together with them, and we're still planning a lot of the logistical components of this with our co-taught teachers. So we have cohorts for co-taught and resource. So we're planning to have them come together to work with our teachers to iron out some of the logistics and have them be a part of this plan. So, but we will answer as many questions as possible. Yes.
So the way it currently sits, we've got 3 classrooms in a given school, 1 of them's co-taught. So we get 9 kids with IEPs and with special ed teachers. We're now splitting up 3 kids, 3 kids, and 3 kids. What happens if that special ed teacher needs to be replaced at once?
We will have, so the staffing that we have in the building, so we have some of the numbers. Can you go back to that slide?
Students.
Yeah, like at Oakland Beach, we'll have 6 teachers in the building, plus the LEA. So we will be able to distribute, the caseloads are not going to be by grade level. They won't be stuck to that. If that's someone's area of expertise and that's how they choose to create their caseloads, then that's fine. But we will have enough special educators in the building so that shouldn't happen. And the lower grades, K and 1, will still have a TA have access to those classrooms.
So it's not like we're going to take those students and say, if there's 3 sections, it has to be 3, 3, 3. So the team's going to get together and look at those service pages and look at those students' goals. And if you have 3 of the students have SEL goals, so maybe it's more appropriate to group those students together so we can make sure that we're accessing their goals. Or 3 students have math goals. It's the grouping is going to be a team decision, and they're going to go through those goals and those service pages as a team with that LEA. And all the teachers will have input as to how to schedule those students, because they'll be doing scheduling and not the building principal, and how to group those students.
Hold on, I saw that one go up first. Yes, hi.
But there will be children who have special needs in classrooms with teachers who are not special needs teachers.
So we are going to, so don't forget, special ed students with IEPs are gen ed students first. They're gen ed students who receive special education services. So we will also be doing a lot of training with our gen ed teachers and pulling them in. I have to tell you this, that our gen ed teachers have not been at the table. They have not had a seat at the table. That needs to happen. These decisions, these conversations. So we will be doing a lot of training on them.
So hypothetically, if my child gets put in the classroom with a teacher who is not a special educator by trade, let's say, and it comes to light that this teacher is maybe not the best suited for something that my child brings to the classroom, what's going to happen?
Now we have the flexibility to do whatever we need to do within that school building. Before, if your child was in a co-taught and that it wasn't mixing, it wasn't a good match, now we have to talk about transitioning that student to a different school. Now we will have the flexibility to be a part of other classrooms if that's what we needed to do.
And as we continue the quick Q&A, I just want to be cognizant that we do have raised hands online as well as in the room. So I'm going to try to alternate back and forth just to make sure that everyone's voice is being heard. So if you're in the room and your hand's raised, don't worry, we're going to get to you. I just want to make sure that we're able to hear both sides, from each area. So if we could go to a couple of the questions online right now. I believe, Tracy, you have your hand raised. And if you could come off mute.
Sure. So I am a parent of a child with an IEP at Cedar Hill currently. I'm also a foster parent of many kids who need support and help in this way, and I'm a psychologist in my free time during the day. And so I think a lot about kind of what you're saying about flexibility, and I appreciate you all going through it so carefully. So I just wanted to clarify, because per your definition, it sounds like the co-taught classrooms, as I understand it, have one general educator and one special educator in the room. And it sounds like you're proposing eliminating any fully co-taught classrooms. Is that correct?
Not eliminating, it's a different version of the service delivery model. So that teacher won't be in there all day, but they will be in there for the times that are on those students' IEPs.
So you are redefining co-taught classrooms to fit what you need in order to achieve flexibility. So you're redefining it as not a classroom, which I'm looking at one of your slides now, not a classroom with one general educator and one special educator in the room the full day. You're redefining it as one that has access to a special education team. Is that accurate?
No, not entirely. So
Okay.
It's important to note that we're not reducing any of the staff, nor are we changing any of the service times on any student's IEP. And we're currently meeting those services now. So we're going to have the same staff and the same IEPs with the new model. We're going to just allow us to have the flexibility. So those students will still get the same exact services that they're currently getting on their service page. Just the delivery model will be different. So it's not necessarily going to be in the same classroom all day long.
Okay, so there will be no fully integrated co-taught classrooms for the full day.
I'm sorry, say that again?
There will be no fully integrated co-taught classrooms with a special educator in the room the full day.
Correct.
Thank you.
Is everyone in the room able to hear the questions as they're coming up? Okay.
Is it coming from that Chromebook?
I think so.
Can you turn that Chromebook up?
Just the volume on.
Yeah, we're going to try to turn the volume up real
Okay.
quick and see if that helps.
Okay.
Okay. If you can't hear the question, just raise your hand and we're going to repeat it for anyone in the room. And the same thing for anyone on the call. If you cannot hear the question, I can see a few of you with your camera on, so start waving and we'll repeat the question so that you can hear it from the room. Okay. I don't know how to tell who else has their hand raised. I apologize. Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. Elizabeth, can you come off mute?
I can. So my name is Elizabeth Johnston. I am a special educator in Warwick, but I am here tonight as the parent of a fourth grade student who's been in a co-taught classroom since kindergarten. One of the things that we valued so much about that class has always been their flexibility, because many of those students, including my own child, academically, they work close to grade level, but their need for support is more on the end of the social emotional, the attention, all of those types of things. How are we going to handle the service times in the IEP? Of course, were always covered. Sorry about the dog, but but those times could be used flexibly when the children needed them. If they needed to be pulled to the side to a small group for social emotional reasons, for attention, that type of thing. How are we going to make up for having lost that kind of flexibility? It always allowed our special educators to use their judgment as when that support was needed. So if we're tied to certain service times, so it's 2 hours a day, his time is 9 to 10 o'clock, aren't we losing a little bit of that flexibility? And how can that work with what we've, excuse me, the way we've done it?
I think this is going to have to be a work in progress. So this is a mind shift on a lot of different levels. So I think that the communication between the regular educators and the special education team needs to be there. And I think that it's going to be very individualized. If students do need that pull out to have that social emotional connection, then that's something that the teams are going to have to work on, and we're going to have to make sure that that's provided.
All right, thank you. I think that second person in the room for a lot of these kids is their go-to person. And it's not on a time schedule. It's more on I have someone here that's here to help me. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I also want to just say, I think the gen ed teachers need a seat at the table. I think that's a lot to carry. Like, that's my one person. When there are classrooms with 9 students with IEPs in them right now, co-taught classrooms. So you have that student with the SEL that has 2 hours of SEL support, and now that teacher is trying to get to an hour of reading and an hour of math, and this kid has 45 minutes of writing, and this kid. So we'll have the flexibility now. It's not just on one person. We can have those connections. It doesn't, and the teacher, the gen ed teacher, will be involved. So this just them always going to the special educator. It takes a village. We really do have to come together to be able to do this. Our needs are increasing, so I think that will give us the flexibility to do that.
We're going to take questions, a couple questions in the room, and then Hope, we're going to switch back to you online. Okay. Question in the room?
So you said that the gen ed teachers don't have a seat at the table right now, but they get to the table and say, listen, this is not thing we do. They already been at the table and talk about that.
We brought them in. We have had one meeting with them so far. It was right after the contract was ratified. We did bring the gen ed teachers in. I sent out a survey. I have lots of feedback, so we're getting to start, we're going to start working with them and meet as school-based teams.
But if they say, no, this is not a thing we can do.
That's a violation of civil rights. Do you know what I mean? Like for me, if someone said that to me, I would start to cry. Like, do you know what I mean? But we have to shift. Yes, it's hard. We might not know how to do it yet, but that's not the child's fault. We have to figure it out. The adults have to come together and figure that out. Do you know what I mean? It might not be comfortable, and sometimes people are really worried when they don't have that training. But that's why nobody has to do it all alone. Let's come together and work as teams, because the way that it is right now, yes.
Sorry, just piggyback to this comment there. So although the general population of teachers did not have a seat at the table, Jen and Dave, along with several others from the administration, worked very closely with the teachers union leadership from September all the way up until the final hour. We were given a contract on the school committee on Tuesday at 11 a.m. They worked all the way through. We ratified all of the pieces of the contract in terms of compensation and whatnot, but they were still working past that on the language. So if just for historical background, if anyone in this city has followed the union, typically, they would not get behind anything if they thought that it was going to be bad for their teachers. But their teachers' representatives were speaking on their behalf, recognizing, you know what, this is kind of the way the language is and how it hasn't been addressed over the years and the decades has kind of impeded us and actually impacted us, but more so impacted the kids. So they worked closely with Jen and Dave and several others. And just to give you confidence in that, one thing, and assurance rather, one thing from this presentation, if you take anything, is Jen and Dave spoke about the benefits of this program. Not one benefit was a cost savings to the district. That addition of the LEAs in the buildings where you not only have the opportunity to go to a principal now, but another person to speak to, that there's a cost to that. That's factored into the contract. There's a stipend cost to that. So stop me if I'm saying anything that's incorrect. But as they continue to address the scheduling needs based on the children needs within the schools, if that requires us to hire more people, name one time we've said no to you in the last 15 months. So as Jen pointed out, we're going to continue to evaluate, and our population, our special services population more continues to grow daily, weekly, monthly. So their needs today are going to be completely different tomorrow and next month, etc. So as that continues to occur, we're going to continue to invest in it. I give you my word on that. 3 years ago, I can say this because they weren't here. We tried that, right? We saw that. That's what made me run. We saw them trying to consolidate services here in Warwick. That didn't work. And it put us in a bad spot with regards to special services. Now they're digging out of a hole. This contract language change that the union endorsed gives us that flexibility. So I just want to point out that there's nothing here regarding cost savings, reductions in staff, et cetera, et cetera. It's just giving them that flexibility to look at your children's needs and move them around. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, that's okay. And we have worked with Human Resources and the union to try and have as little change as possible. Teachers can stay, even though their job title might change to just a special educator in that building. They are able to stay in there. Should they choose to move, that's fine. But we really wanted to have as little, change in staffing as possible. We wanted to keep it as open as an option.
We're going to take one more question in the room and then switch back to online for 2 questions. So anyone else in the room still have a question? Yes, go ahead.
As far as the push in, pull out services that you can provide, would that need to be written into the accommodations of your child's IP?
Sure. So
Or that
ideally, and this is something that was noted on the school support visit, is that least restrictive environment. So ideally, students should be getting these services in the gen ed setting as much as possible. But even if it's written in the IEP that the services are gen ed, that doesn't prohibit a special educator from pulling students out to work with them in groups when needed. If it becomes something that we need to pull a student out on a regular basis to work on specific goals, then that would have to go as a separate line item on the IEP. Right, so that would be on the math goal on the service page would be whatever, how much time, to get that specially designed instruction, on the other would have to be checked on the service page so you can pull the student out for those services. So it gives us the flexibility to have that students that have both of those on an IEP, whereas now, if we have a student that has gen ed check, they have to go to one of those 5 schools. We can't service them in the classroom.
Okay, we're going to switch back to online. I'm sorry. No, we won't make it. I'm going to take 2 online. We're going to go back to the room after that. Hope, can you come off of mute if you're still here?
Hi. So I'm a special ed teacher at Wilk, and I send a lot of students to co-taught kindergarten. And right now I'm an integrated preschool teacher, special ed. How are the general ed teachers going to be able to follow through with the IEPs and all the accommodations and modifications in an hour and a half of, direct specialized instruction in the area of social emotional when they have 22 other kids in the classroom? Doesn't that put more on the general ed teacher?
So in years past, you've sent kids to kindergarten with similar service pages, I imagine. And like I said, we're not changing the amount of staff, or we're not changing students' IEPs. So however it was met before, teams are gonna have the flexibility to work what's best for the student to do that now.
So if
I said,
sorry. processing. So the current IEP that a student has right now says that they're going to get an hour and a half of specialized instruction in the gen ed classroom for social emotional. So do I have to amend that IEP to make it now fit this no
Nope,
co-taught
that's
model?
what we don't want to do. We're changing things to fit our programs. That the IEP needs to be what that child needs. And then that's on us to make sure that we can make that happen. So we don't want to change anything to what we have. We're fitting kids in boxes. We can't. We need to have IEPs that are accurate and accurately depict what they need so that we can advocate, and we do. Sean will tell you. We do.
In full transparency as well, is that prior directors gave directives to special educators, and no fault of their own, that if a student is in a certain program, then they need to have a service page that says this. So they were told what to put on service pages for the amount of hours. That's not appropriate. Students' service pages should reflect the services that that student needs individually, how much specially designed instruction they need per their goal area, not they need this number of hours because they're in this program.
Right.
So that's something that we need to undo, but I think that's something that is worth tackling.
So right now, if I have a student who has an IEP for an hour and a half specialized instruction of social emotional, in the fall, there'll be a special ed teacher in that classroom for an hour and a half?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
At least. Right.
We're going to take one more question from online, switch back to in the room, so you'll be first in the room. Okay, Tracy, and then Melissa, we're going to, once we switch back from in the room, you'll be the first one up online.
Hi, so thank you for going through this, and I appreciate the change is hard and that you are trying to focus on the positives here, but I wonder if you could speak a little bit to the negatives, because every decision has pros and cons, and I'm wondering what cons you have considered and hopefully have a plan for as part of this new model.
Yeah, all I know is that what we're doing, we need to pivot. There are things that are hindering us from providing our students with what we need.
I think maybe challenges as
Yeah.
opposed to cons.
Right.
I'd like to say some of the challenges change anywhere is difficult. I think that getting out of the mindset that you have this group of students that are my students, and that's, they're their students and my students between gen ed and special ed. I think that needs to shift, and that's going to take some training and take some time. I think that special educators get really possessive of their kids, and they're my kids, and I'm the only one that knows how to service them. And I think in those 5 schools, starting that, like Jen talked about, that team-based approach is going to be a challenge.
That shifting of the culture,
Right.
Like I said, it's very heavy on special educators. It really is. And we need to be able to do it as together. It's just not sustainable. I'm going to say this. I have people crying in my office all the time. People call me on my drive home crying all the time. This is not okay. It's heavy. People say COVID's gone, and people are still dealing with a lot that happened. We have not reset. A lot of people are struggling. So we do need to pivot. But changing the culture is going to be a struggle. There's a lot of people will say to me, my students can't, he doesn't, he won't. I can't, I don't want that. We need to have faith in them and say that we've tried everything possible to be able to get them to do what they need to do. And if they can't, then we provide those supports.
Yeah.
So I'm asking really because I'm thinking about challenges for the children, not so much challenges with culture shift, which I appreciate will be a problem. And I appreciate you thinking about that. But are there challenges you think of for our kids who are in these classrooms in having this different model and experiencing it?
Yeah, I think the culture shift will be difficult for them too. Like I can't remember, someone said they rely heavily on, they go to their special educator, like just being used to asking questions to other people. Do you know what I mean? I think that will be a little bit of a challenge, definitely. But we have to be ready to provide them with what they need.
I'm going to switch to in the room for 2 questions. So first.
Mine will just be really fast.
Okay. So I
First,
get 3.
I just to be clear, we're gonna have teachers who are not highly trained in social emotional issues, and we're gonna expect them to learn on our children. First of all, okay, and then second of all, my son, who is in 1st grade, was not in a co-taught classroom in kindergarten, and what his teacher went through to help him was she went so far above and beyond, and she was in tears every day because there weren't proper supports in place. She was one of the people who strongly encouraged, as did everyone else in the team at that school, that him being in a co-taught classroom with people who specialize in special education and issues like his would be a better fit for him. So that's all.
And it's really a question, but that's not going to change. So there are going to be people who are, special educators that are going to be in that classroom still.
All day?
Not all day, but they'll be there to provide
Like
the
he melts
support.
down?
There are supports in the building from when that happens, yes.
That's that layer of, that's honestly, that MTSS, those layers of support are not in place right now. I'm being honest. It's a weakness of ours.
It's also concerning that as the woman asked about what are the cons, that you have you guys didn't even think about that or talk about that at all?
It's
And
not
what
that I
the
didn't.
cons are gonna happen for our children?
It's not that I didn't think about them. On the spot, I'm trying to think of cons for that,
That's the question I thought of too, so here are all these pros that they're sharing with us, but what are the risks? What are the challenges? What's gonna happen to my kid?
I think the challenges are the students are used to having 2 or possibly 3 adults in the class with them at all times. And we're not fostering independence that way. We're not teaching students how to be resilient and how to grow. So I think that's something that we need to kind of shift the focus on. That is teaching our students, to overcome some of their obstacles and be more independent.
One more in the room, and then going on 1. Okay, go ahead. Just make sure you speak up a little bit further.
No, not just to kind of piggyback just off what she said in regards to and even Tracy with the cons. My child right now receives full day special ed support. So it sounds like this model will shift to more like an hour and a half or whatever IEP calls for, when they can, or the group of children. So I feel, and same regarding the general educator who is with 20 other kids who don't need the service, trying to manage 1, 2, even 3 kids who do need some extra attention. Just feels like, we talked a lot about them being spread thin and how it takes a village, but do we think that maybe those other children who aren't in need of those services will also maybe have a disadvantage, having to maybe wait on certain things getting explained a certain way, or those types of challenges? Because I'm just looking at what the model looks like currently for my daughter, and she did shift from a homeschool to this co-taught with the same advocacy that it would be really great for her, and it's proven to be really phenomenal for her. So I guess my concern is, with it coming so quickly and so little training on these general educators, how do we see that playing out, in the fall?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do have conversations going with the superintendent about offering summer trainings. I have put money aside in the grant. We also have money put aside from RIDE, from our school support visit, that we're able to have people come in for training. So it is in discussion of getting that training up and going.
And it is for sure happening.
Yes.
And this is already voted on, right?
Mm-hmm. Prior to
So and I guess and this is not trying to be a smart comment, right? Just trying to understand how these things work. So, I can appreciate, I know Sean said you got a list of 48 questions, right? So respectfully, those weren't our questions. And so why was this voted on? Why is this meeting happening after? It seems backwards.
Yeah.
So there's complexities when it comes to negotiating a contract. First, let me say the contract was ratified in February. the months blending together now, am
Yeah.
I correct, February? February, that evening, parents could have essentially come and asked questions or brought concerns forward. However, given how the contracts are negotiated, I don't agree with it because I don't feel it's transparent. But one side doesn't want the general public, or both sides rather, don't want the general public to know what it is that they're negotiating. And so it's kind of, would you agree with that statement? It's behind closed doors,
Yeah,
so.
I'm legally not allowed to discuss what was in negotiations, and so some aspects of this were part of negotiations. So a lot of our principals were really upset, and I'm like, legally, we could not discuss aspects of negotiations because it was against the law, so.
We're gonna go on time for some of the back. So can I just stop for just one
Yeah,
moment? We are getting close to time. I can extend the meeting. I just want to make sure if we're going to do that for maybe about 10, 15 minutes, that both of you are in agreement as well, Sean, or are we all okay with that? Just to make sure that, I think there's still a few more questions. I've seen some comments coming in online, and I'd rather everyone had a chance to express what they, and had a chance to talk. Is that all right?
I think if
There we
there's
are.
people with genuine questions, concerns for these individuals, absolutely.
And
Okay,
also,
all right,
we're gonna
perfect.
be doing building parent forums, so building-based parent forums too. So we'll do an optional and in-person, you know.
But your concerns are valid.
Yep.
It is backwards. Parents should have had input as well. However, it's just the way of the rules of the land. I mean, it's, you know.
All right, we're gonna switch to Melissa online. Melissa, can you come off mute?
Yes, hi. So my name's Melissa Lamoth. I'm a speech language pathologist in the district, specifically this year at Park Elementary School. So I just wanted to say that as an educator, we knew prior to this meeting, you know, we saw part of the presentation and things like that. But what I wanted to say is I understand that no system is perfect, not in Warwick or not in any district. But I'm hearing a lot of the conversation that special education isn't
Speak
working.
up. I know you can talk louder.
Hold
Ashley,
on.
speak up.
It's as loud as I can go.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm hearing a lot of this conversation tonight that special education, you know, it's not working. Gen ed teachers aren't having a seat at the table. And I feel honestly that I can speak for Park School that it is working, and our teachers do have a seat at the table. All of our teachers, our interventionists, our gen ed teachers, our special ed teachers, our teaching assistants, every single person in our building has a seat at that table. We consult with each other before decisions are made, and our students are receiving the services that they need. So it's not to say that, you know, that this new program won't be supported. Of course, as educators, we will do whatever needs to be done. However, for parents on the call, I feel that we need I need to say reassurance. Your children's needs are being met. Their IEPs are being met as they are right now. Could we have improvement as a district? 100%. However, I do think that there are positives to what is going on right now, and we can't discount that, particularly gen ed teachers having a seat at the table, and also that all of the students are all of our students. I 100% can speak for Park in saying that every student in that building is all of ours, not just gen ed, not just special ed, all students, right? Whether they have an IEP or not, every student in Park School is our student together. So I think, you know, I just want to tell parents that we need to support whatever administration decides. However, at this time, we care for your students. We're meeting your students' needs. We're doing anything and everything that we can to make their school experience successful.
Lori, thank you, Melissa. And Lori, can you come off mute with your question? And then we're going to switch to maybe one or two more within the room. And we'll be closing the meeting for at least tonight, but not the conversation. Hi, Lori, Lori, we can't hear you. Oh, Lori, are you able to come off mute? Oh, no. Lori, if you're able to come off mute, we'll try again. I'm going to switch over to Erica. Oh, did she come?
I'm on.
You're off? Oh, good, Lori. Thanks.
Sorry.
Glad. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's
I'm a
all
teacher,
right.
preschool teacher. My question is, what is the maximum hours that a child can receive, such as in social, emotional, language arts, and math in this program that you've been describing?
So again, like I said, we're not putting hours on programs. We need to determine how much specially designed instruction a student needs in a particular goal area, and that's what needs to get recorded on the service page, and then we'll meet whatever that time says. So it should be a time sample of how much specially designed instruction the student needs, in a given day, and that's what should be on the service page. We're not going to put limits on how much instruction they need. And that's kind of when the IEP team gets together and they look at when they write the IEP, and I think it's a little backwards too, because I think we decide where a student should go for a program, and then we write service pages instead of writing what a student needs, and then deciding where we can meet those services.
Erica, we'll take your.
So if a student.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Lori.
Sorry.
Just one more thing. If a student were to need 5 days a week of, just say, 30 minutes math, 30 minutes language arts, 30 minutes social educator with a special educator with hour and a half for 5 days a week, is that reasonable, or is that feasible the way this is designed?
I don't think that we want to provide students with an opportunity to be in the least restrictive environment. We want that IEP to match. There shouldn't be two IEPs that match. There usually aren't if they're written properly. So there could be someone in who needs a half an hour of reading, half an hour of math. Someone needs an hour. Someone needs, 45 minutes of writing. Someone might not need that, but they need 45 minutes of SEL. So that's the culture shift. That's the shift in thinking of like compartmentalizing and what does this is a co-taught kid. No, he's a student who receives special education services. What those services are, what they need, that's our job to figure out. That's our IEP team's job to figure out. We figure that out and figure out how to provide that to the students.
It sounds like she was asking, like, is there a distinction of how much is too much, and at what point do they need a different setting? Like,
That's
at
an
what point
IEP,
does
that's an
IEP
IEP
decide?
team decision. So that's hard to, you can't make a unilateral, you can't make a statement like that, because that student might need, 3 hours of SEL or 2 hours of SEL, but being around those peer models is essential to being able to apply what they're learning, So you can't make that, I don't think that you can really answer that in that kind of a way.
We're going to take one more question.
Thank you.
One more question in the room, and then we're going to close the end of the meeting and talk about what the next steps need to be, because clearly there's still a lot of conversation to be had. So, Erica, can you come off mute?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think I heard previously that the way the education program is working now is working. So given that these changes are coming into effect and have already been decided upon, will the board review the changes to see if they have a negative impact on our children? And then what will next steps be if that is the case?
So, no, I think you said that. So, I think that I don't want to be misunderstood that we're saying that special education is broken in Warwick. I think that what we're trying to say is that we're bringing students to services instead of providing services to students. And least restrictive environment is something that we'd like to focus on, and creating inclusive schools. So certainly we will be monitoring progress, and we welcome the questions and concerns, And we have some time before next fall. So if there's questions or concerns that teachers have or parents have, we'd like to address those so that we can make sure. I mean, there's no chance that Jen and I, thought of everything. So I think that having your input as to, some concerns you have or obstacles that you foresee that we might have missed, we welcome having those, that input so we can come up with solutions before next fall.
One more question in the room and then we'll close. Go ahead.
So, sorry, you were questions, but so you said the MTSS is not in place. You said teachers will be training because they haven't yet, and then this is happening in the fall. This is a 5-year plan. Why isn't the year 1 getting services and training in place in year 2, getting rid of the classrooms?
There has been some training in the past. I'm just saying, under us, we have not done that. So I have to assume that people don't have any, you know what I mean? I can't assume. Right.
Be like,
Yeah.
build support structure first.
Right. Which is why we're doing this with the 5 schools. They will be fully staffed. We'll have that additional, relieving that principle of sitting in team meetings for 2 full days.
Yeah.
Gives them so much more time to be able to focus on what they need to focus on in that building. And freeing up our, school psychologists and having that LEA in the building where there could be immediate feedback, immediate support with trying something new, So that's why we're starting with those 5 schools. We want to get them all on board. We want to make sure that everyone is doing the same thing before we start to spread out.
And this is ongoing. So coming out of our school support visit from last May, so Dr. Schultz, who's our MTSS coordinator, has been working with school-based teams and principals, rolling out, because there are pockets of MTS that are going on in the district and going on well.
Is that rolled out in the classroom already?
In pockets, yeah.
pockets, yes.
So a big focus on SEL has been rolled out in a lot of the schools, but the academic component, we definitely have to straighten up. So
And there's not uniformity between all 5 schools, and that's what this LEA, what this will help create that consistency.
Will that be in place before September?
Absolutely.
It's very quick, just about the training. Is the training going to be required for the Gen Eds? So if it's required training, you're saying like for the summer?
we're still working with the superintendent. We have to work with Darlene, the president. Yep.
I don't mean, that's probably some costs.
Yeah, I did allocate funding in my grant, and with our ride support visit, we were doing some funding.
Financially, we're fully invested.
Yeah, and the logistics we're just in the works with that.
Just give you just mentioned during.
Yeah.
All right. 2 more very quick questions.
Yeah,
No, you never have to apologize. That's in our meetings, never.
I was curious, IEP that's not is a contract.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna be essentially reevaluating those contracts, but is there like a mechanism of success? Like, at what point do we know that this is not working for our child? And at what point is the school system considered a breach of contract? Because it doesn't sound like, I mean, no disrespect, but it doesn't sound like all elements of this have been taken into account. And there's still a lot that's up in the air. So what is breach of contract look like for my son?
So in talking about an IEP as a contract, you're absolutely right, and we are obligated to provide the services that are on that service page, and we absolutely will be doing it. So we're not going to violate service pages at all. And IEP progress notes is something that, quarterly, in looking at the benchmarks, and that would be the case manager's responsibility to look at how that progress is being made. And if there's not appropriate progress being made, the team needs to come back together and reevaluate kind of what that looks like and how the service is being provided and making appropriate changes.
And you can call a meeting, at any time. Anytime you're concerned about things, you can reconvene that team, to look at that and review the data and see how things are going. So.
All right, last question.
Thank you. So I'm a special educator at Lincoln, and I've worked in a co-talk classroom for the past 5 years, and I really appreciate, I totally see the vision and where we want to go. But I have nothing but positives about the co-talk model, and I've had a really, truly great experience. So my question just lies in, So if we're saying that I could next year have, a caseload of some students in 3rd grade and some students in 4th grade, some students in 5th grade, will I get enough planning time to work with all 3 of those gen ed teachers? Because right now my co-teacher and I spend a lot of time planning, and I'm not only just servicing the kids with specially designed instruction, but I'm modifying the work for, the whole day. So will I get that time to work with the 3rd grade teacher, the 4th grade teacher, the 5th grade teacher, to make sure that all day these kids are successful in being able to access the gen ed curriculum?
Absolutely. So as part of that team with that LEA is designing this, because you're not be tied to, I have to be in this classroom at this time and be there for all day. You're going to have the flexibility to have no schedule in between your teammates at Lipit and that LEA, figure out what schedule works, and then working with those regular ed teachers and having those conversations, about what time works for them, so you guys can collaborate.
And you'll be a part of that process, creating caseloads. We do folder reviews at the beginning of the year. We're going to review everyone's file. Let's look at this. Let's lay it out. What's best for kids right here? What makes the most sense? And allows that opportunity to be able to meet with different teachers at different times.
So I want to thank everyone tonight, all the parents and the staff of the Warwick School District who showed up tonight, both of you for preparing to speak with us tonight, which was not easy, for everyone online who took out time from your incredibly busy schedules, all of us to be here. Sean, thank you for coming. I'm going to make one comment that is going to be not as me as a leader of the WSEAC, but to me as a parent. 2 of my daughter's teachers are either in the room or online tonight. There may be more that were from Park Elementary School. My daughter went to Wealth and then to a second school where she went through a bus ride for over an hour to get her services at all, and sometimes it was more than an hour to get services, and then finally ended up with Park. By the time she got to Park at 2nd grade, we had not built relationships with the teachers at Park. And this is all in hindsight. Because I learned a lot, going to these meetings and also working with these 2 wonderful people who I know are online or in the room. Caitlin being one of my daughter's teachers, Melissa Lamoff, who was offering support. We as parents lost the ability to build relationships with Park, because my daughter had been shifted so much. By the time she got to Park, she was really not doing well physically. She was really sick. And then on top of that, a lot of the teachers, you're starting all over again with your IEP. Everything's written in the IEP, but that doesn't mean they know the kid. It would have been really nice if our family had had the opportunity for her to have been at Park in the first place. I don't know. I know you're going to go through a lot of growth pains with this, and it's going to be tough, and not everything's going to be, by any stretch of the imagination, probably perfect. But I wish, at least for the relationship building and for my daughter building friends and for us having a much better relationship with the teachers at Park, I wish we would have had that chance. So I'm really hoping that things go well, and I'm hoping that you continue to come here and give parents an opportunity to have a voice about some changes, and the same thing for all the teachers who are online and the staff. This is going to be really difficult. I've been through change initiatives where I work. I've, obviously been along the ride for a couple with the school district too, and I think we're going to need conversation. So this is it. I think everyone here as well online needs to know what those opportunities are going to be, and if we could close with that, I think that would help.
Yeah. So we're here every month, but we definitely will be sending out some dates. I'd like to go building by building and have smaller parent forums to have those in-depth conversations. I am meeting with our cohort teachers, because a lot of those things that are ironed out, our teachers need to be a part of that. So, to come in and have everything ironed out means that no one else has a voice. And so I don't want you to misunderstand that we haven't thought about things, but there are things that I really do want people to be involved in as much as possible. We weren't able to do that as soon as I would have liked, but again, we were tangled up in a contract language. So we will have more opportunities to come together very soon.
not only just for the parents, but also for the teachers. and
Oh,
staff
yeah, oh,
also.
teachers are coming, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure that's for everyone.
Yes.
All right. Our next meeting, Caitlin?
The next meeting is April 24th. Location also TBD, because
we may need to have a
probably
large
meeting
group.
here again.
We can report a motion next time.
Huh?
We bring up for the motion.
I know, I'm so sorry about that. We will make sure that we have a speaker and that we have a microphone for everybody who shows online. I think everybody online did phenomenal under the circumstances, and everyone here too. And the last thing I'll close with too is that there's a bunch of teachers tonight and staff on the Warwick School District who got recognition tonight because all of you showed up and never would have received that recognition, that public recognition, if you can't. You've given me feedback that the next time I present at the school committee meeting, I'm going to be able to mention their names and their schools. That's how important it is, just that little piece right there for all of you to help out the Warwick School District, for you to make sure that everyone who's doing an awesome job is being recognized, and for all of you to learn about what's going on from a policy standpoint in the school district. I'm so glad all of you came tonight, and thank you for staying a little bit later.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening, everyone online, everyone in the room.